We have another day in the books at the 2020 World Junior Championship Tournament. 4 more games complete. The standings are starting to take shape a little bit more. We'll discuss all the latest news and results of the tournament coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have another day in the books here at the World Junior Championships. We have most teams have played 3 to 4 games now. The standings are starting to take shape. We had 4 more games today. So let's take a look at the results from today's games, and we'll get into what to expect here in the next little while within this tournament. The Slovaks continue to lose, unfortunately, dropping another game to the Team Switzerland by a score of 7-2. So, of course, the Slovaks are certainly in a bad spot here. They're likely going to finish near the bottom of Pool A. Fortunately for them, Kazakhstan has performed a little bit worse and likely will be the team to face relegation here. But outside of Kazakhstan, Slovakia is certainly probably the next weakest team in Group A. Switzerland's likely going to be in the middle of the pack now. Even though they haven't fared well against some of the stronger teams, they certainly are able to beat teams like the Slovaks and the Kazakhstan team. Now, speaking of Kazakhstan, they dropped a game 6-2 to Team Sweden, so Sweden continues their dominance of round-robin action and continue their winning streak here after all these years of not losing a round-robin game. Of course, not that I expected them to lose to Kazakhstan, but certainly it's amazing, really, if you take a look at that winning streak, how many games in a row here they've been able to win. Of course, this tournament continued with strong performances from guys like Hoglander and Fagemo. I mean, these guys have been performing at an incredible level. Nils Hoglander's really proved to be a very entertaining hockey player, very fun to watch. Canucks prospects have proven that he was a great pickup by the Vancouver Canucks in the draft, and he's only getting better here. This is a big stage for him to really show what he's capable of. Not only can he do the lacrosse goals, but he's a very offensively gifted forward. Has been really playing quite well for Team Sweden. Be interesting to see how they do as the tournament goes on here and they get into the playoff rounds coming up here in the coming days. Then we had Team USA doing battle with the Czech Republic, and the U.S. did win this game, but it did take overtime to get it done with a 4-3 score. The Czech Republic gave the U.S. team a pretty good scare. They played extremely well, even though they were playing without their starting goaltender, Lukas Dostal, who was injured, and they ended up losing Jenik as well, who was really their top player, top center iceman. So it was a big blow. He ended up missing the third period, which looks like a pretty serious knee injury. I haven't seen any more updates on the injury and if he's going to be out for sure or what his status is for the tournament, but it certainly did not look too good going off the ice, and unfortunately, I think it's going to be a big blow for them, but they were able to hang with the Americans the rest of the way, keep things tied. There was a goal that was called off in the third period due to goaltender interference. The Czech Republic appeared to have tied the game, but after watching the replay, you could see that their player skated through. He was not in the crease, but he did make some contact with goaltender Spencer Knight's head, which apparently the referees felt did impede him from doing his job and making an attempt to make the save, so the goal was called off. They did later go on to tie it up, send it to overtime. It was a close call, but the Americans pulled away, finally getting a big goal out of Cole Caulfield, who's been kind of quiet this tournament. It's been surprising how he's been deployed, and when he has been deployed, he really hasn't been showing that offensive flair that we've seen from him in the past. Now, American forward Trevor Zegras has continued to dominate with the assist column. He's up to 9 assists now. Absolutely phenomenal tournament for him. Zegras has proven to be a very crafty playmaker. Every time he's on the ice, he's making some nice plays. Most of his assists are primary assists as well. So even though he hasn't scored, he's a huge part of that offense and has really proven why he was such in the conversation of potentially going as high as like number 3 or 4 in the 2019 NHL draft. It's amazing he did go a little bit lower, but the Anaheim Ducks got themselves a heck of a prospect there. He's incredibly gifted playmaker for the U.S. and is having an incredibly strong tournament with somewhat limited ice time. He's only playing an average of 12-13 minutes a game, but he's getting at least a couple of assists per game, which is a really fantastic result for him. So, of course, with the U.S. winning, but only winning in overtime, they only get 2 points for an overtime win, where they get 3 for a regulation win. So that does set things up that the U.S. likely is probably looking here at a second place finish, depending on how the other games go. Of course, the Czech Republic still has to play Team Canada, so we'll see how they do there, even though theoretically Canada should win that game. Look at the hard time that the Czech Republic has given the U.S. team as well as the Russian team. So it's certainly anything but a gimme for sure. We'll see how they do, but right now it's looking like the U.S. most likely finishes in second, but hard to say how things go. Now, Team Canada bounced back very nicely today with a big 4-1 victory over Team Germany. The German goal came late in the game. Joel Hofer got the start in net for Team Canada, played extremely well. Of course, Team Canada had a much better all-around game today after a really terrible effort against the Russian team. Of course, they're without forwards Joe Veleno as well as Alexis Lafreniere, who's out injured with that knee injury. Not quite clear if he's going to be back or not. I mean, right now, the information that we have suggests that he's definitely not going to play against the Czech Republic, which would be their final round robin game. And depending on who their opponent ends up being in the first round of the playoffs and the quarterfinals, I would think more than likely he sits that game out as well, because it's likely not going to be a stronger opponent like a Sweden or a Finland. And if they can get through that and make it to the semifinals, depending on how the knee is doing at that time, if he's able to play without risking further damage and anything that's going to impact his career, that's certainly not worth it. Even though he wants to play, his teammates want him in there, all of Canada wants him in there because he's such a strong player, but he's got to think about his future first and foremost. So I guess we will see. There's no immediate decision here. We probably really won't find much more out on if he's going to play unless they were able to go probably to at least the semifinals, and will be reevaluated at that time. But it's an unfortunate loss for Team Canada, but at least they were able to beat Germany without two of their top players. Now, of course, in the case of Joe Veleno, he will return in the next game. He was serving a one-game suspension for headbutting, which is a situation that happened in the Russian game, so he'll be back. That'll be a nice welcome back addition for the Canadians as they have to do battle with the Czech Republic, as even though the Czechs lost against the Germans, they certainly have given the Americans and the Russians quite a scare so far in this tournament, and proven in Group B really is anybody's game. As of right now, if Canada can beat the Czech Republic, they will finish first. The Americans will finish second. The Russians may finish third, but it's really going to depend on their game against the team Germany. If the Germans can upset the Russians would actually be playing in their relegation round, believe it or not. That would be really odd to see. Nothing that I certainly would not expect that at all. So we'll see how Team Russia can do against the Germans. But unfortunately for Russia, even though they had that big win over Canada, they lost against the Americans, and they had that big upset loss against the Czech Republic as well. So it's kind of up to Germany now on their fate. If they can beat the Russians, then they said they'll be in the relegation round. If not, then they'll be in the quarterfinal. For the second consecutive day, we also have another suspension announced by the IIHF in this tournament. Russian forward Ritsev has been suspended for headbutting, just like we saw with Joe Veleno, and that situation happened in the game versus the USA. So for a second consecutive day, we have a really odd situation about headbutting. It's not a common thing you see in hockey, but for 2 days consecutively here, we've had it happen at the World Juniors. So they will be without him for their game here against the Germans to finish out the round robin portion of this tournament. So we don't have too much further to go before the games are complete in the round robin portion, and then we'll know who's going to be in the playoffs and what the matchups will look like to see who's got the best shot here at winning the gold medal. So of course, as always, we'll know your highlights from today. What did you enjoy most about the action in today's games? And based on what you've seen so far, who do you see as being the favorite to win the gold medal? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and we'll continue the conversation. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content. There'll be plenty more coverage of the World Juniors as well as all kinds of NHL content as well. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will catch you next time.